First of all, a meldado is like a commemoration for the deceased. Meldar is to learn or to speak, and it's more like a meal and a Torah study session in memory of the deceased. It can also be the equivalent of the Ashkenazi yahrzeit. Then there's the Ashkava, which is actually a prayer service, often at Mincha and Shabbat, for the recently deceased, or again for the annual anniversary of the deceased. Beit HaChayim is the cemetery. Literally, it means the house of the living, but it's for Sfaradim, their cemetery is called Beit HaChayim, or if they couldn't pronounce the hey, it became Beit Achayim. A kal is a synagogue. It comes from the word kihila, which is a community. So Ladino is the translation of the Bible from 14th century Castilian into Judeo-Spanish. When in the next lesson on Judeo-Spanish, I'll get into some of these topics a little more. So the actual Sephardic equivalent to Yiddish in the Balkans and in northern Spanish Morocco is called Judeo-Spanish, or Judesmo, or Spaniolit, or Judeo-Espanol, in Hebrew Yehudit Sfaradit. In Morocco, the dialect was called Chakatia. So this is the name for the language, which is the modern spoken language plus the modern written language. Solitreo is the hand script of Judeo-Spanish. So in the past, in the lesson on mysticism, you saw an example of the inscription of a handwritten Judeo-Spanish amulet. Now, the Judeo-Spanish is written, it's a cursive script. It's not Arabic. It doesn't resemble anything that of any other Jewish language. It's not written like Hebrew. It's not even written like Rashi script is written. It's different. But it's you would guess it's the closest thing to Arabic. And it's usually, the letters are combined. But the letters that, like a Yud, is very small. So and people have different handwritten styles. So it's very difficult to sometimes describe, to identify the various letters and read the texts. So Rashi script is obviously from in Sifrei Kodesh, from Jewish holy books. That's the typewritten Hebrew script, and you notice sometimes letters are like unfilled or something. Judeo-Spanish, the actual typescript of the language is like that, but it's not the same. Okay, so there's a saying, an Ashkenazi Jew in Salonika is called a Mashamecho. When the refugees came from the Kishinev riots, they were supposed to settle in a neighborhood called, which became Baron Hirsch, but the philanthropist Baron Hirsch, and then later on his widow had left money to establish refugees in Salonika and Istanbul. They didn't want to stay. In modern Hebrew, you'd say Mashimcha, but they said Mashamecha, what is your name? So for a Sephardic speaker, that's kind of funny. You don't say it Mashamecha, you say Mashimcha. So the Sfaradim called those people Mashamechos, or the plural would be Mashamechosim. Okay, so a kopla is a Judeo-Spanish liturgical prayer for Hanukkah or Purim or even Pesach. An endecha is a Sephardic Judeo-Spanish lamentation after a death. Romanza is a Judeo-Spanish ballad, often associated with medieval Spain. Sometimes they're common themes, but the romanzas actually have a provincial, regional character to themselves. Chazakah, in the Ottoman Empire, Jews couldn't own property, but they lived in these courtyards, and someone would be responsible for the courtyard. So the person responsible he had the entitlement for the courtyard. He had a chazakah. Chamali is a port worker. The Jews controlled the port in Salonika during the Ottoman Empire, and a chamali was a stevedore or a port worker. A pecha is the Jewish communal dues. A gabel was the internal Jewish tax on meat, wine, and cheese, and it was used to fund communal affairs, schools, etc., etc. You went to the market, you went to a Jewish vendor, and you bought cheese. So there's a tax on the cheese, and that money went to the Jewish community. A nedunya is a dowry. It's the Hebrew word, so the Sephardim use that also. In Greek, it's called a prika. And then the mother-in-law was the suegra. Refrana, or refrano, or refranes, those are Judeo-Spanish proverbs or sayings. A novella is a short story. A desayuno is a meal, or specifically a term for breakfast. Huevos y jamonados. Sephardic Jews eat for Shabbat lunch or immediately at Kiddush after Musaf on Shabbat morning. So that consists of cracked, dark, hard-boiled eggs and beans. Chamin is a Sephardic cholent. In Greek, it was also called fasulia because that's the word for beans. But so the Shabbat dish wasn't primarily meat, but more beans. A teva is the reader's altar stand in the synagogue, but it's in the middle of the sanctuary as opposed to the front by the ark. A kinotita is a Jewish community. It's a Greek word. The idea of an hermanidad is a Sephardic brotherhood. That was a common term and given to Sephardic organizations. Nona is a grandmother. A papu is a grandfather. And the papu also is a Greek term, not just Judeo-Spanish. Jucha was like the village idiot, or the Sephardic equivalent of Chelm. So Jucha is a person, and he's also getting into trouble, and he's illogical, and many Sephardic stories are on Jucha. There's a woman named Matilda Cohen Serrano. She's still living. For many years, she's written about Jucha, written many books in Judeo-Spanish. They've been translated even to English, French, Hebrew, and so you can look for Matilda Cohen Serrano's books on Jucha.